Welcome to Sonoran Stories with Admissions, an official podcast of Sonoran University of Health Sciences. I'm your host, Courtney Badowski, and I'm so glad that you're here. On this podcast, we explore the real journeys, honest insight, and inspiring voices that make our community so unique. If you're curious about a future in naturopathic medicine, clinical nutrition, integrative health, this is the place for you. Let's jump into today's episode. Today, we are so excited to meet with a very special guest, not only to this university, but to the profession of integrative healthcare. Dr. Lise Alschuler is the president and CEO of Sonoran University of Health Sciences. Dr. Alschuler is a naturopathic doctor and board-certified naturopathic oncologist with over 30 years of experience in integrative and naturopathic medicine. She holds a doctorate degree from Bastyr University, an executive MBA, and an undergraduate degree in medical anthropology from Brown University. Her career includes leadership roles in clinical practice, research, education, and in the industry, ranging from directing botanical medicine programs to serving as the VP of Quality and Education at a major supplement distributor. She is a past president of both the American Association of Naturopathic Medicine and the Oncology Association of Naturopathic Physicians. She has been widely recognized for her contributions to the profession with numerous awards, including the AANP's Physician of the Year Award. Dr. Alschuler is also an accomplished author, a podcast host, and an international speaker who is deeply committed to advancing personalized and integrative healthcare. Her vision is to foster innovation in health sciences education and inspire future practitioners to lead with purpose and authenticity. We are honored to have Dr. Lise Alschuler joining us today on this episode. So without further ado, Dr. Lise Alschuler. For listeners that are meeting you for the first time, what would you like to share with them about yourself that's personal, beyond the title, that human side?
That I believe that the most important thing in the world is love for oneself, love for humanity, and that the power that kind of runs through us and unites all of us is universal love.
Ugh, wow, what a great statement. That is so powerful. So let's go to the very beginning of your journey. Do you remember the time that you realized that healthcare was your lane? This is for you.
I do.
Yeah,
This is
share
gonna
it
go
with us.
way back.
Okay.
So I was in third grade and I had this epiphany that I wanted to become a nurse. So I couldn't wait to tell my dad. So when my dad got home, I'm like, Dad, I know what I want to be when I grow up. He's like, okay, come sit on my lap. Tell me. So I got on his lap and I was like, Dad, I want to be a nurse. And he looked at me and he said, that's beautiful. And why don't you become a doctor instead? Third grade. So I'm like, okay, I'll become a doctor. So I have to say, honestly, I never looked back.
Wow, that's awesome. And you had a really great supportive system at home.
I did have a good supportive system at home. And, I think from then I got more serious as I got older. So being a doctor went from sort of this romanticized version of, being somebody that saves lives in a heroic way to really becoming more and more aspirational about engaging in a truly healing relationship with people.
So what drew you to naturopathic medicine then specifically? Was it a person? Was it a patient story, a book, a class, life
Okay,
experience?
I'm going to tell you another story. This is kind of a crazy one. So
Okay.
I was on my way to medical school. So I was accepted to what's called a 7-year med program as an undergrad. So I was kind of pre-accepted to medical school. And part of that was to give these pre-med students a chance to major in other things. So I majored in medical anthropology, which opened up my mind to healing way more than conventional medicine. And I realized, wow, there's a lot more to healing than just being an allopathic physician. And so I had this hesitation, which grew and grew, and there's some things that happened. So I literally was like, metaphorically, my hand was on the doorknob of medical school, and I just pulled back and I said, I can't go. This is not where my heart is. So I didn't know what I was going to do. Fast forward, did the Peace Corps for a while and trained as an EMT. Still not sure what I wanted to do. I was getting an acupuncture treatment, and the acupuncturist said, hey, I have this thing I want to give you. Just take a look at it. So she gave me this booklet or something, and I put it in my bag. And then I went home that same day, opened the mailbox to get the mail, and there was a manila folder addressed to me. And
Wow.
so I went in and I opened up the manila folder and I took the thing the acupuncturist had given me, and they were the exact same thing, which was a catalog to what was called John Bastyr College of Naturopathic Medicine at the time.
Wow.
What are the chances, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I opened it up, and on the inside cover, I can still see it to this day. This is like over 30 years ago. There was the principles of naturopathic medicine printed out. And every principle I read, I got more and more excited. And I thought, this is what I've been looking for. This is exactly who I want to be.
What a great story. It's so interesting to hear how individuals and their journeys bring them to the discovery of this medicine. Wow. Okay, so follow up beginning of your journey question. What did you believe in the beginning that now, as you look back, were totally wrong about it?
You know, I would say maybe I misunderstood the degree of the scientific rigor, the what I would call the evidence-based approach to natural healthcare. Not that I was adverse to that. In fact, it was something I was glad to discover, but I was more sort of entranced with the healing concepts that this catalog at the time embraced, and my sort of medical anthropology knowledge seemingly up, right there on the page in front of me. So I think as I was going through the training, I was very impressed in a good way with how rigorous the training was and how important the science and the scientific application of natural medicine and naturopathic principles was, as equally important really as the philosophy and the sort of underlying practices that guide that science application.
What would you say to yourself if you could go back and talk to your pre-med young college self? What would you tell her about choosing this path?
I think I tortured myself a little too long with trying to stay on the conventional path of allopathic medicine. So if I could go back to my younger self, I would say follow your heart. It might take more courage. It might seem scary. It might seem off the beaten path. And what are you doing? I can't even pronounce your natural, what a pathic, all those. But if it's where your heart is and there's something that awakens in you and enlivens you, then that is what I would say to my younger self. Follow that, because that's where your vitality is going to grow, and that's where you're going to bring your best self forward as this practitioner.
All right, let's talk about your training. You earned your ND degree at Bastyr and then completed a residency there afterwards. So, what were the biggest lessons that only clinical experience can teach you?
So clinical experience is absolutely cornerstone to naturopathic medicine. So naturopathic medicine, of course, is very similar to conventional medicine in the first 2 years, more or less, of the training. We're learning how does the body work, what's the science that underlies the functioning of the human body. But it's really, that all is just in sort of esoteric head space until we have to apply it to a person sitting right there. So it's the clinical side of things, which is where we learn how to apply what we've learned, but it's also where we start to actualize this thing that can only happen between two beings, which is the healing relationship. I mean, nowadays you can go to AI and you can get a whole bunch of information about your symptoms.
Right.
But can that heal you? I don't think so. I think you need an interaction with somebody. You need that empathic exchange, that compassion, that light to happen from me to you and you to me. That's where the healing happens. And I think that's what the clinical training helps you to develop. I'm the president of Sonoran University, so one might say, well, why didn't you go to Sonoran University as a student? But it didn't even exist when I went to school. So that's why.
So, what's one skill that you recommend students start building earlier before they start school that would make a huge difference once they enter the program and become an enrolled student?
Oh, gosh, just one?
You can say more.
Okay. Let me start with a sort of what some might consider a soft skill, but I think is absolutely important. And it's hard to describe, but if a student is coming into an naturopathic medical program when they themselves are relatively young and they haven't had a long life of lived experience, and yet they're going to be managing the health and sometimes in very serious situations of other people, there has to be a way for them to approach that with some place of deep center. So I think one of the things that's very important is what some people call soul medicine. That's really paying attention to who you are as a person and to take responsibility for how you're showing up as a person in this world. And to make sure that there's a certain practice that occurs on a regular basis for self-reflection, for self-evaluation, for consideration of how could I do this differently? How can I be part of the solution instead of part of the problem? What do I uniquely have to offer in this world? Those things are really important, and they might sound completely unrelated, but in my view, the more solid that gets sort of woven into literally our DNA and who we are as a person, the stronger and the more healing we are as a person. Right. So then when we start to layer onto that the knowledge and the practices, we can actually effect healing. We can see change in another person. I think without that core, it's a much more difficult and longer road for somebody to become a physician.
And that would require a lot of discipline, right? Because you think of the generation today, I mean, there's always a constant distraction. There's the phone, there's all that stuff. So that makes it even harder, I think, probably to sit and self-reflect in silence with your thoughts.
Absolutely. And honestly, my hat is off to this generation. I mean, this is really hard, to your point. You know, this generation especially, I don't know how I would have survived growing up as a young person now because there's so much distraction. The speed of information is so fast. Like young people are literally growing up in a constant stream of data. They're just swimming in data all the time. It's just constantly changing. So how do you extract yourself from that stream long enough to just get your bearings in life? It's a really big challenge.
Yeah.
And I think that a critical part of that answer, which is one of the reasons why I'm a naturopathic doctor, why Sonoran University has nutrition, mental health counseling, naturopathic programs, all based on the healing power of nature, is nature. So we have got to get out in nature, even if it's for 5 minutes. We've got to get out and just reconnect with the world around us that's not full of data and busyness. And that's all it needs is 5 minutes, literally. If people can just go out and find a tree to sit next to, look at a bush, walk along a lake, whatever it is, there's a lot of science around this now too, but it absolutely helps to reset.
Yeah. Really powerful advice. I want to move on to your life after you graduated. What did that first couple of years look like after graduation? What did you say yes to? What did you learn fast? What was what was the struggle?
So I've had a sort of an atypical career in a sense because I finished my residency and I immediately became part of the administration of Bastyr University. So I started working there, a faculty member in their botanical medicine department, and started doing some teaching. And Sonoran University got developed right at that time. So they asked me to come down and help start their botanical program.
Oh, wow.
So I actually came down to what was called Southwest College at the time and set up their botanical department and did a lot of teaching. And so was very kind of right into the academic side. And then Bastyr asked me to come back. And so I went back and sort of continued to work in that way. Throughout all that time, though, I've always had what I call my pinky in clinical practice. So I kept a private practice as a very part-time thing. But that was really important to me. So as I evolved as a teacher and my work in the professions and doing other things, I always had clinical relevance to sort of support that other work.
Yeah. I really want to go into your naturopathic oncology and the integrative medicine leadership. So you've been a part of the profession through so many stages. And I know you were foundational in that early advocacy work to broaden the licensure and integration. When you look to the future, where do you hope naturopathic and integrative medicine is headed?
Oh, gosh, this is a great question. So first of all, let me just say that Sonoran University is now a university because we have more than naturopathic medicine. We have added other programs that have a kind of Venn diagram of overlap with naturopathic medicine. So all of our programs share this foundational belief in whole person healing, whole person health, and utilizing the wisdom of nature in the approach. So nutrition, mental health counseling, naturopathic medicine, we have certification programs. So that is positioning Sonoran University to be the global epicenter of natural health care. And I know that's a big statement, but I really believe that's our future because we're very committed to making sure that we move these principles forward and spread them as broad as we can. So here's the reality. The conventional way of healthcare is like the Titanic. It is slowly sinking, and it's too big of a ship to turn. And we know this. Providers are miserable for the most part.
Right.
The only way to really have a satisfying practice is to become uber specialized, which means there's this big deficit of primary care, which is where most healthcare needs are. So we have this big lack of healthcare in the system. It's poorly reimbursed. The providers who are hanging in there are having to churn through patients at an incredible rate. That leaves a very dissatisfying experience for the patients. So the patients are looking for alternatives. So where are these patients who are going to be, fleeing the sinking ship? Where are they going to go? We have to be there for them. So we, meaning all of these whole person based healthcare systems of naturopathic medicine, nutrition, mental health counseling, integrative medicine providers. There are others, acupuncturists, chiropractors. All of these providers have to be ready, willing, and able to take on the healthcare needs of our population, which I think we are very well positioned to do. I think the future is strong, it's bright, and in fact, it's necessary.
And obviously, in light of the epidemic a couple of years ago, I think it's safe to say a lot of people are becoming a lot more critical thinkers about healthcare and healthcare options. So the need is there, and it always will be.
And, it's interesting. If you look at the pandemic, the controversies around vaccination aside, just look at the people who are the most likely to get sick were the people that had generally the most what we call comorbids or other health complications going into the pandemic. So people with pre-existing heart disease, diabetes, obesity, people who were not enjoying really good, solid health to begin with were the most at risk for developing serious infection and, in fact, dying from the infection. So that's a good example of where whole person health is so important. If we had a better system of healthcare and we were empowering our population to live more healthfully, and we had, in fact, a healthier population, we would be more resistant to these pandemics. But honestly, the way our population lives now and the way in which we learn about health and the options available to us from the healthcare system, we are at high risk for another pandemic.
So being board certified in naturopathic oncology, the FABNO.
No?
So what pulled you towards the oncology work?
Yeah, so I was very curious about oncology from even before I became a naturopathic doctor. But then as I went through my undergraduate, I was in this elective class, and it was a beautiful class. They had these people who had been diagnosed with cancer come up in front of this very large auditorium and tell their story. And every single one of these people, not only did they use more than conventional care, they always used other things, but the way in which they spoke about their life and what this disease had taught them about what was important and how to realign their life to their priorities was such a beautiful thing. It was like almost overwhelming. And I thought, gosh, to be a doctor and work with people like that, that would be amazing. So I really got excited. And then the more I learned about cancer as a disease, the more I realized how complex it is, how it involves every system of the body. That obviously appealed to me as a then medical anthropologist, now naturopathic doctor. So for me, it was just a really natural way to combine this beautiful population of people that go through a very challenging, very difficult experience. Some of them don't survive it, but many of them, even those that may die from the disease, have the opportunity to heal in that process. So working with that population, along with being very intellectually challenged with just the immensity of the disease and the complexity of it, really appealed to both sides of my brain. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I've been very happy to promote that within the naturopathic profession. We were the first board certification in the naturopathic profession. So FAPNO is the fellow of the American Board of Naturopathic Oncology. So we set this up because we recognized, the group of us that did this, that this was a complex illness and we needed to develop deep expertise beyond the more generalist training of a naturopathic medicine degree. So we have criteria set up so people who fit the criteria can then sit for a board certification exam and become board certified, which really just is a way to make sure that the people that develop the specialization are very qualified to do it, are operating in a way that's safe and effective, and can further advance the field.
I meet with a lot of students that are very interested in that direction in naturopathic medicine. And so coming to Sonoran, if that was a student's interest, how do we facilitate the growth in that area?
Yeah, so we at Sonoran, we do have some honors tracks. At this point, we actually don't have an honors track in oncology, but that's on the docket, so to speak. So we will very soon. And we have some exciting potential developments in this area. So I think if I could wave my magic wand, I would say within the next 5 years, we'll have a pretty stellar experience within the arena of naturopathic oncology here at Sonoran.
And I know we have an oncology club, so there is some leaning into that specialty already.
To your point, I mean, even without this kind of a center of specialty here, we have a really strong network of naturopathic oncologists in the greater Phoenix area. So there's lots of externship opportunities for students. We have a recent collaboration with Banner Health, which is available to especially the students in our oncology club to do some observational experiences with oncologists. So we definitely have our fingers in the community.
Okay, cool. I would like to address a big myth that is out there about integrative cancer care that you'd like to correct since you've been in that world.
I think probably the biggest myth is that, well, I hear it a lot from my patients. What did I do to cause this cancer? Or I caused my cancer. And if you think about, like, this is a very complex illness, there are definitely risk factors that are what we call modifiable risk factors. So it's true. If you drink a lot of alcohol, if you carry a lot of extra weight, if you don't exercise, your risk for cancer increases. That's true. And if you take those things away, then your risk is lower, but it is not at zero because there are other things that cause cancer. There's environmental factors, which are outside of our control to some extent. There's certain genetic factors, which are also outside of our control. There is the stress of modern day living, which to some extent is somewhat modifiable, but somewhat not. So, I mean, and these things all accumulate and they are additive together. So I think the biggest myth is, what did I do wrong? That's the wrong question to ask. The question to ask is, what can I do to lower my risk of cancer or its recurrence? But to recognize it's not just my fault. It's really just an expression of multiple factors coming together and manifesting in that disease.
Well, let's talk human to human, the resilience, values, perspectives. You've shared publicly that you are a breast cancer survivor. How did that experience change the way that you show up for your patients and for yourself and in leadership?
Yeah. So I'm going to go back just a bit to give this context. So I was working at a cancer specialty hospital, and I was seeing probably 15, 20 patients a day who had been diagnosed with various kinds of cancer, getting conventional treatment, and I was giving them the naturopathic side of their care. And then my father was diagnosed with advanced pancreatic cancer, and he was given a prognosis of, at best, about 3 months. I looked at his scans, and it was all over. I'm like, yeah, this is not looking good. So he ended up utilizing a combination of conventional and naturopathic integrative care and lived for 17 months after his diagnosis. But what was most remarkable about outliving his prognosis was that about a year after that time period, he came to me and we actually remember the day we were sitting out on this porch drinking a cup of tea, and he said, I just want to tell you that because of the inclusion of all of these supplements that you're giving me and the IVs that I'm getting and the changes in my lifestyle, in addition to my conventional treatments, I have felt healthier in this last year than I have felt in the last 30.
Wow.
Which was remarkable. His cancer was all over his body.
Yeah.
And yet he felt so well. And so it was a really interesting experience for me to hear and observe. So that was that. Then 2 years after he did pass, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my first reaction was, really? There's still something I have to learn about this disease?
Oh, gosh.
But in fact, there was. And it was living the disease from the person with the diagnosis, which is very different than being a physician. Treating somebody, very different than being the daughter or doctor of somebody with it. And so having gone through breast cancer, and I went through the whole gamut of surgery, chemo, radiation, hormonal therapy, the whole thing. But of course, utilized natural therapies alongside it. So I too always felt like a healthy person with cancer. Not to say I didn't have side effects, but I recovered from them well and I rebounded well. I feel great now. And this was where are we? This was like 18 years ago, so I'm doing great. But it changed my life absolutely, fundamentally. I was able to relate to patients very differently. I literally saw it. Patients would read on my bio that I had had breast cancer, and they would come in and they would verify it first. So you've had breast cancer too, right? And I say, yeah. So you've been through what I've been through, right? And I'd say, yes. I think I've had my own experience for sure. And their shoulders would drop, and they'd just be like, okay, you get it.
Human to human.
Human to human. And
Yeah.
it was just like all of a sudden, they didn't feel like they had to explain themselves to me. Like there was sort of you get it.
Yeah.
In there. And so it was a very important part of my healing work with them. And it just did give me a lot of insight. So I could speak about their fears because I had had them. I could speak about the issues they were experiencing because I had had similar issues. And it's completely changed my life. I mean, I used to look at my birthday coming up and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm getting older. And now I celebrate. I made it. And, it's that sort of sense of deep gratitude that I have for life. And I see my role on this planet as serving humanity in the best way that I can, 100%. And that's really been cemented into me because of my experience with having to stare at my mortality like this.
Yeah, when it becomes real and you can see it. That's incredible. Here we go. This is a good one. What habits protect your energy in a role as intense as your role now? And you can even speak on what you did to protect your energy as a student, just for, the future students that are listening. But as a leader, what do you do to protect your energy?
I mean, I think there's several things. So one is I have a morning routine that I protect. If there's a meeting that has to happen in the morning, I am negotiating till Sunday, like really, because I have to get up in the way that I like. I have to do my exercise. I like to walk my dogs. And during the walk, I listen to some kind of contemplative type of book or whatever. So I'm sort of doing some spiritual work. I'm out in nature. Like those are important to me. I start my day that way every day. So that's part of it. I'm not perfect. I don't actually know what that even is, but I would say that I don't have 100% perfect habits, but I'm mindful. So I'm always trying to find, like, do I really need to do that? Or can I eat a salad instead? Or, just be mindful about my choices. I think underneath that too, I also have found over time that when I'm doing something that I love or that I'm passionate about, that thing that I'm doing feeds me as much energy as I'm giving it. When I'm doing something that I just am not in alignment with. And sometimes there's things you have to do just to get to the end that you really feel excited about. So that's different. But if I've lost my way with something, I get zapped immediately. I think as a student, for example, the first couple of years of the naturopathic program are pretty difficult. Science courses are tough. You have to learn a lot. It could be a little bit draining for students if they don't keep that eye on that North Star and really connect. Why is this science, this difficult stuff, where is this leading me? And how's this connecting to what I came in here to do? So I think just finding ways to always connect the difficult things with the goal and seeing yourself on a path and just making sure that whatever you're doing feels like you're on that path. And if you feel like you're falling off the path, then you have a question. Is this the path that I want to be on? And if it is, then why have I fallen off? And what do I need to do to kind of realign the value of what I'm doing to where I want to go so I can kind of get back on my path.
And I guess that aligns back to protecting your energy, the need to unplug and to take that time and connect with ourselves to digest our day. I think that kind of coincides with what you were talking about with the protecting of your own energy and being able to ensure you are calibrated to the path that you know you need to be on in order to get to that next goal.
Good point.
Yeah. So I want to move towards where you are now. You are the president for Sonoran University.
That's what they tell me.
That's what the sign on the door says.
That's what the sign says. I keep going into that same office. So.
Yeah, and this was effective recently, July of 2025. What called you to this role? Why did you choose to go this way?
Yeah, I will say honestly that this job for me is very much about how I'm being called to serve. And I'm not saying that to be self-aggrandizing or to make it sound like I'm anybody special. It's just that the skills, the resources of my experience, the perspectives that I have are being called upon, being gathered together in this role at this time. And I hope that I'm a help to the university, of course. And then beyond that, to the impact that the university and that its graduates, its professionals will have on the health of humanity. I mean, make no mistake, I feel that we, humanity, are at a crisis point. We are at a point of transformation, and the rate at which we are transforming is so fast, faster than it's ever been. And we have the opportunity to either lose our humanity or to augment it. And I think that we have to augment it in order to survive. And the things that will help humanity do that are to infuse our world with the healing power of nature, with the dedication to the love of one another and of humanity, and to living to the collective will of how we as a whole planetary being, all the living things on this planet, how can we coexist together? And I think that's really the opportunity before us. How do we step into this? So I feel like the things we're teaching at Sonoran, naturopathic medicine, nutrition, mental health counseling, some of the other certification programs that we have, these are all absolutely like arrows being drawn and thrown right into the target of that. And so all of our graduates are change agents. They are more than just practitioners. They are change makers. They are saviors of humanity to be quite, in my view, truthful about it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what we're about. So it's an honor for me to be here and to be in a role that, as challenging as it is to very proactively every single day try to move that mission forward.
Very powerful. It's exciting. Sonoran is known for training healthcare professionals who thrive in modern healthcare. So, what do you want a future Sonoran graduate to be known for in the real world?
I want Sonoran graduates to be known for several things. Number one, they are tireless advocates of the healing power of nature. Number two, they lead with love and compassion. Number three, they're smart and they make good decisions and are good guides for their patients. And number four, they are joyful about their work.
Very good. And they're ready to be the change, the revolution of the direction that medicine is going. And it's really exciting to be a part of it, even in my role.
Well, your role is integral. I mean, that's the other beautiful thing about Sonoran. People like you are here because you love the mission and you love the role that you're playing in bringing these prospective individuals into this program so that they can transform themselves into these beautiful healthcare professionals. That's an amazing thing to do. And that's part of this too. You know, we all have a part to play. And I think that it's really a collective community wide effort that's needed now. And the more that we can see ourselves as all being a part of this effort, the better chance we have at bringing it forward.
Absolutely. What is your vision for student experiences, academics, clinic, confidence, mentorship, well-being, and belonging for our students here at Sonoran?
So, you know, programs here are rigorous. It's not a place where students can come and kind of coast, you know, relax their way through. This is a commitment of intellect. It's a commitment of resource. It's a commitment of time. It's a commitment of heart. So it's difficult in that sense. But the difficultness, I feel that Sonoran students, if they come and they feel that they're in a community that cares about them, that they each matter and they each do, that they are each part of the solution and that we together are building that solution, that infuses them with vitality. They wake up excited to learn, excited for the challenges ahead, that they continually ask themselves, they start their day with the statement of I am part of the solution. And then they ask themselves, how can I be a solution today? What can I do? How can I serve? If we had a community that asked themselves that every day and went through, you know, we all have our off days, but honestly, that's the kind of place that Sonoran is and can become even more. So, you know, to be just straightforward about it, I don't think that we want people here who are just looking for an easy out or a quick buck. I mean, that may come as side effects, but really the kind of student we want here is somebody who's mission centric, who really sees their professional work as their heart work, their soul work, their work with a big W.
What excites you the most about where integrative medicine is headed in the next, 5 to 10 years?
Integrative medicine will be the medicine of the future. So it's the future of medicine. Naturopathic medicine, nutrition, mental health counseling, all the things we're training are the medicine of the future. And the cool thing is that we have cousins in conventional or allopathic that think and just like us, they want to collaborate with us. So I see the future of medicine as all these different provider types working collaboratively together on behalf of the patient, and that everything is about how do we move this patient into more wellness. So that's another important thing. Right now, everything about healthcare is disease focused. It's like, oh, you have this disease. We're really good at diagnosing this disease, and we're really good at maybe in some cases taking the disease away. Health doesn't just plop in. So really healthcare of the future is about how do we build wellness either around the disease, if it's an incurable disease, or once that disease is removed, how do we build health to fill that gap? And how do we use health to prevent more disease from occurring in the future? That's whole person integrative healthcare. And that is the future of healthcare.
And so for our prospective students, what misconception for pre-health students can you debunk about the ND education or even the future of the career?
I think that there is this idea that if you go into naturopathic medicine, that you will remain poor and it's not a very viable career. So it's good for your heart, but it's not good for your pocketbook. Not true. This is a very viable career. So, and the beautiful thing about that is that students come here, they're challenged intellectually, they're challenged in all ways to be the best practitioner they can be. And then if they have enough guidance, which we will provide them, and they can also gather from the community of alumni around them, they will go on to develop either on their own or join successful practices, and they can have very thriving businesses. And make no mistake, being a starving doctor is no fun. So we want our graduates to be successful as business people as well. And that's really so that they can be in a position where they can, in fact, provide this care to as many people as possible. And there's ways to do that very ethically and in a way that can serve a broad spectrum of the population, but that will also position people to enjoy a life that they deserve.
Very good. Best advice that you ever received, and whether it was in your ND degree or in your professional career, what was that advice that really stuck out to you? I have my own that echo around in my head every now and then. Most of them are my dad's voice, but what is yours?
I mean, there's a couple I'll share. One is when I was a student, I went to Bastyr University. That was named after John Bastyr, who at the time I was in school was still alive, and he was an elder at that time. But he was a very important individual in kind of keeping naturopathic medicine alive in the early 1900s. And he was still serving on the Washington Association at the time, and I had the honor of being the student representative to that association. So I had a chance to talk to them a few times. And I remember one time we were sitting down at dinner, and I sat next to him. I said, Dr. Bastyr, what's the one thing that you would advise me that I should do as a naturopathic doctor? And he, without skipping a beat, said, always touch your patient. He said, if you can touch them with your hand, fine, but that's not what I'm talking about. He said, touch your patient, be real and present with them. And he said it with such intensity. And, this is a man who, into his 80s, read 2 research articles every night before he went to bed. Like, he was very committed to the medicine. But in the midst of that, his thing was, this is about human relationships. I think I've really carried that through.
Wow. And so what about professional life? What's some really profound advice that's always kind of stayed with you when needed?
I think, I would say that professionally it would be from a mentor of mine who, when I was doing a job that was very big and I was very overwhelmed, I would get kind of stressed out about my work or what I wasn't doing right. And one day she just said, just remember you are enough and just do what you can do. And that's enough. And I think it really helped recalibrate my expectations and allowed me to actually do better work without having to feel so like, oh, I'm not doing enough. Can't do it right.
Ugh, that's really good advice. If you could speak to the version of you right before you committed to this path in patient care, just chat with yourself for a few minutes. As a student, haven't started clinical care yet, you're about to see all kinds of stuff you've never seen before. What would you say?
I mean, this is a funny thing that comes to mind, but I think I would say don't fake it until you make it. Like, this is not the time to pretend that you know something you don't know. Like, just go in there, and it's a bit scary actually to interact with somebody who's revealing a lot to you and entrusting their health to you. And when you're a student, you don't really know very much yet. It feels very scary. So I think the the answer is not to pretend like you know a bunch of stuff that you don't know, but to be very honest and say, you know what, this is a good question. I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to do a lot of research until I figure it out, and I'm going to get the right supervision. And then, in fact, to be open to doing that.
Yeah.
So that, you are really treating that life, that person in front of you respectfully and with integrity.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to that human element. You're human.
Yeah.
You're still learning, and
Yeah.
it's okay to carry that all the way through the process.
Absolutely.
If a listener is brand new to integrative health and is interested in becoming a part of the evolution of traditional healthcare, what would you say to them? What would you recommend for them to do next?
That's a very interesting question. I think that naturopathic medicine is unique in this way because we really do owe much of our principles and our approach to healthcare from traditions of health that have been around for thousands of years. Much of what we practice as naturopathy today can be found in Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, other forms of indigenous healing, and we've taken those traditions and then we've overlaid or infused into them modern scientific understanding, modern scientific applications, and kind of come up with this beautiful alchemy of traditional and modern. That's really what naturopathic medicine is.
Yeah.
And and I think it's important then to honor that tradition and to recognize that in many ways some of the the things that were done 5,000 years ago in Ayurveda we're still doing today. So that says something about the veracity of that.
Right.
And we maybe have different language to describe it. We have a little bit more sophistication around the mechanisms behind it, but that the actual principles of the practices are still intact. So, treat traditional systems with respect and to honor the traditions that we are now sort of carrying forward into the so-called modern world.
Yeah. And on that note, you got to be wary about where you get your information from as you start to investigate this path, as you begin gaining interest and determine is your calling. And say, there's somebody listening that's interested in this path. Where should they start?
Well, so it's a very important thing for naturopathic medicine. To become a naturopathic doctor, you have to go to an accredited naturopathic medical school. So this would be a school that's federally recognized through the Council of Naturopathic Medical Education, which is part of the Department of Education. People can learn about that through the Association of Accredited Naturopathic Medical Colleges, or AANMC.org. And then each program is additionally regionally accredited. And that's important because that means that the school has a lot, and believe me, it's a lot, of very clear standards that we have to abide by. How we teach our students, how we evaluate our students, how we disperse aid to our students, how we hire and train faculty, the kind of facilities that we have. All the elements of an education are kind of codified, if you will, and that's to ensure that students are getting an education that they're paying for, somewhat standardized so that the students are then qualified to sit for their licensing examination, which in turn is a way to say to the public, this person is competent to practice this particular form of medicine in the public arena.
Right.
So that pathway is very clear. There are other ways to involve yourself in natural healing, but not as a naturopathic doctor.
Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you joining us in this
Thank you.
episode. We'll have you again in the future, I hope.
Well, sounds good. You know where to find me.
Thank you so much for joining us today for this episode of Sonoran Stories Podcast with Admissions. I am truly excited to share this space with you. And if you're ever curious to learn more, we encourage you to connect with our admissions team. You can always join us for an upcoming information session, a webinar, or even visit our campus for a tour to experience what makes Sonoran so very special. The stories and conversations coming up this season are inspiring, honest, and so full of wisdom, and I cannot wait for you to hear them. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe and leave a rating. Share it with someone who might be exploring a future in integrative healthcare. I'm your host, Courtney Badowski, and this has been another episode of the Sonoran Stories podcast with admissions. I want to welcome you to the Sonoran community, and I'll see you next episode.